Hi everyone. Okay, so I'm just gonna lead off with, oh, in the center. Yeah, sure. Then I can't lean on anything. So I'm just going to lead off with. I did not plan anything. The idea here is just to tell a story. So the story of kind of what I've seen in the space to this point, and then kind of where we started, how we ended up where we are, and where I think we might be going. So my name is Shax. I am 27. I've been a software engineer at numerous places. I kind of started quite early. I'm a mathematician by traditional education, specializing in game theory. So let's start the story. What is an NFT is the first question. I've kind of been trolling the audience a bit before we started to get people's opinion on this. So does anyone want to kind of raise a hand and tell me what they think an NFT is before I give my answer? An idea. Okay. So, sure, let's go with an idea. So, an NFT is really characterized by one key element, and that's the fact that it has a mint address, and kind of everything around it comes from that address. So what we've added to an address is like a physical address, like a place. We can point to it. We can say where it is. We can send things to it. We can know when it moves. We just know how to find it. It's something we can point to. But other than that, it's not really anything, right? It's just what we build around that concept. So when we were discussing in the crowd before we began here is that like it's like a social security number. It's not really anything, but a lot of things are driven off of that number. So what we've added to NFTs since, right, when if you look at the token standard of today, we've got an address, we've got an image, which is optional, you don't need to have an image. We've got on-chain data, which is just transparent data of what's going on with this asset. We've got external data, which is non-transparent data. This is kind of like an AWS storage bucket, which you can point to. We've got attributes, but like none of these things really mean anything. An NFT can be anything. And that's how this all started. People asked, well, what the hell is an NFT? Like, what are these things? And the most popular, easy way to communicate that message was, it's a dog, or it's a monkey, it's a lion. But why is that important? Well, because it's the only one. You can't have it again. This is this lion, and I can point to it. And it's important that you can't have another one of these things. And that's how we began. So it's just something you can point to. And if you can get people's attention on that thing, you can create value around it. So when you've got something as abstract as that, there's going to be hysteria, right? There's like no one really knows what it is, but they see money pumping into it. They see excitement. They see views online, and they go, I want to know all about this fucking thing. So the first time that I kind of really understood that hysteria was when I found Cryptodes. Is anyone here familiar with Cryptodes by Gremlin? It's a frog project that pumped up to 14 Ethereum when Ethereum was 3,500. And it was absolute hysteria. So I wanted to know what was going on with this hysteria. Why was this what it was? So I bought a bunch of them. And then I went in the Discord, and all it was people posting vibe, exclamation mark vibe, which then prompted Discord to create dancing turtles, right? So these are $60,000 assets, which are just like running on mass hysteria. And at that point, I thought, all right, I called all my friends, sell everything. This is nonsense. So from then on, I kind of found other groups of people that were doing more interesting things. So once we got past the hysteria phase, like you have these massive upswings and massive downswings, as you always do with hysteria. And whatever's left at the bottom is people saying, all right, well, let's continue to build things out. So we went back to the fundamentals, and at that time, I had a fairly interesting idea of what I wanted to build first. The first thing that I built was, I thought that taxes are quite annoying. I was sitting in Chicago talking to a friend of mine, and I said, well, you live in Manhattan, and I'm living in Chicago. Chicago's a shithole. And we pay a lot of taxes to live in this shithole. So, like, what if taxes only were deducted if certain conditions were met? Right? This is prime for smart contracts. It's not that we could implement this. No one's going to implement this tomorrow. But the idea makes a lot of sense, which is that we're going to deduct taxes if certain conditions are met. And so I called a bunch of friends. I have some friends over at Jump, and I called them. I said, what if we built a product that kind of mirrored this? And they said, No, we're not going to do that. Why are we not going to do that? Because no one's going to fucking buy that. It's not important. So I said, all right, well, I'd like to examine it anyways. So I built a game around that idea. And the game had 3 types of NFTs. It had low-class workers, which they're symbolic, right? It had entrepreneurs, and it had tax collectors. And the game had certain conditions where, based on staking counts, people would earn certain income, and the tax collectors would tax them at variable rates. And this was a smart contract. It ran all day, every day, based on the current outlook, what the staking counts were. People made different varying amounts of income. And to get people interested in playing, I can't remember exactly, a couple $100,000 in a pot. And I said, you guys are competing for tokens which are redeemable for this money in the pot, and whoever can maximize their income is going to get the biggest piece. And really, I wanted to see how people would behave, right? So I did a raise, which was for roughly the amount I put in, because what I wanted to figure out was how people are going to behave, because this would allow me to build new things in the future by understanding the customer profile. So what I thought would happen, there's one caveat to the game, which is that if people could not agree on the stake count, meaning that there were equal numbers of different assets staked, nobody earned anything, which became weaponized later on. But what we all thought would happen is that the tax collectors would just make the most, right? The idea being that they would purchase the other assets and then kind of exile them so that they could not be used, and then they would just collect taxes until the pot was gone. But we saw something very different. We saw extremely irrational behavior. We saw people on secondary markets purchasing tokens whose only utility was to take money out of the pot. So, like, why would you purchase that? And we saw, we saw the token go up 1,000% in value in a day. Why? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. So we're looking at this saying, well, now there's this crazy expectation on this token, which we did not anticipate at all, because like the faucet was very small. Like it's a little faucet, because as people earn tokens, they're supposed to take their wages and say, look, I did well today. I outcompeted these other people. I've collected my taxes, or I've earned my income, and I played better than the other people. But no, we saw a crowd of people, a few thousand people purchasing these tokens for absolutely no reason. And then I figured out what the reason was. So they then took to the internet and they said, look, you can make passive income on this game, which is crazy. None of the marketing was around that. It's just a game that we wanted people to play. But that's what the consumers did. They said, look, you can make passive income off this game. And then they created this massive storyline for how this was going to play out. So we saw extremely irrational behavior. There's no calculation being made. It's just hysteria. And the hysteria is driven a lot by, these are confusing things. So like, this is not even that it's a malicious act, right? That they're going in false advertising. They just, when you give people illiquid assets, which is really what NFTs are, they're very illiquid, and I'm going to get into kind of ways to combat that we've seen. They tend to become your biggest marketers. And how they choose to market their illiquid assets can dramatically change the outlook of things. So we all have to have a tad bit of responsibility as we build, knowing that this is the case. And marketing is something which has been weaponized in this space from the very beginning. And I don't necessarily mean weaponized in a negative way. I just mean it's been weaponized. And the best weapon has been mystery. When you're dealing with things that people already don't understand, weaponizing mystery is very, very effective, because they don't know what's going on. So you just don't tell them, then there's no way to analyze it. They get very excited. So I'll give one example of kind of weaponized mystery, because it's left a stain on this space. Is anyone familiar with Degen Town? Oh, we got one. See, thank you. So Degen Town they had a partnership with a very well-known launchpad, and I don't blame the launchpad for what happened. But essentially, they did an all mystery, no Discord, no one knows what's going on, mint, which they said was going to be a degen mint, which is typically very, very cheap. They ended up minting for 3 Solana. And then after they minted, it kept pumping off of the mystery of what might come. So what came was an address and a Twitter post that said, if you send your NFTs to this address, you'll get a surprise. Right. you'll get a surprise. What's the surprise? And well, we're not going to tell you. It's a surprise. And the floor price pumped, I think, 800% overnight. Everyone's like, there's a fucking surprise. What is it? And this is a lot of money, right? We're talking in the couple million US range, which is going into something like this. And they said, what's the surprise? Well, send it and you'll find out. Well, people sent them. And the surprise was that they disappeared. Congratulations, you won. That was the surprise. We're gone now. Well, okay, well, we can't say we're gone. Our Twitter got hacked, and because it's a Twitter-driven project, we're done now. But that's the surprise. So, I mean, this is like just like completely weaponized marketing. But then who do you blame? Do you say people were Degen Town? Fuck you. You took our money. Well, that's not right. You can't do that. But you gave it to them. You just handed them. You read a Twitter post that said, send me your asset and you'll get a surprise. And people did it. Right, so like why? So like this is the customer base that we're really dealing with. And so when we think about building products, right, people talk about we're going to do utility, we're going to do launch pads, we're going to do this, we're going to do crowdsourced funding, we're going to do Shark Tanks. It's like, guys, this is not the consumer base. So like, how are we going to change the general perception? By the way, I'm limiting the conversation here to kind of things that have significant trading volume. I think there's fantastic projects out there that don't have any trading volume. And one of them is the privacy-driven project, which I'm going to talk about, doesn't have volume. But it's an amazing project. So we're looking at things that have 99% of the trading volume of NFTs, and a lot of them just don't really make sense. So getting back to the original thing, like I said, I ramble on a lot, but the original idea was that once we said, okay, well, we're just in a state of hysteria, things don't really make sense, market's going to correct, market did correct, let's break down really what's left. And what's left is we've got this mint address, and people are still in love with the idea of there being an image attached to the mint address. What a lot of people don't know is that that image is mutable, which everything except the mint address is mutable. Like, it's not set in stone. You could wake up tomorrow and every single one of your NFTs could be a black square. Like, you just could. Like, this is one of these unspoken things in the space that we try not to talk about because it's actually quite a miserable topic. So that NFTs have update authority is kind of what I'm getting at. So like really at their core, all they are is an address. We have a place where you can build things around it, and you try to bring attention to that address to make people want to buy it. It's confusing. So they also have this amazing thing called seller fee basis points, which is how creators earn money when these assets trade. And this is another one of the unspoken things in the NFT world, which is that they don't actually have to be enforced. There's no reason to pay that royalty when you go. And this created a massive spur in the space. So we saw projects kind of fall apart. And at the end, creators got together and they said, we're going to build things of real utility now. We're going to connect Web 2 and Web 3 and do this and do that. And the reason this all makes sense is because we earn royalties on the things that we create. And it turns out you don't. It's just like the royalty is executed during the sale of an NFT. But you don't have to sell it. You could transfer money to one place. You could transfer an asset to another place and then swap them at the end. No one sold anything. But that's it. That's how they got around royalties. It's on Ethereum. There's no royalties. There's on Solana. There's no royalties. And if you're paying them, you're either a sucker or you really want the project to succeed, which is what should happen. But you don't need to. That's the point I'm trying to make. So this was the big selling point for why people would use creators and why people would be creators in the space. And now we are solving that slowly. So the current solution, if anyone's wondering, is that we've made new token standards that limit how the NFT can move around, but it allows you to kind of blacklist sites that don't respect the royalties. So this created a moral dilemma. Like, does the owner of the NFT actually own it? But because we've added this additional creator who can block a sale, can block a transfer. So this is just a current moral dilemma, but this is the solution we've come up with, which essentially means if you give people too much leeway, they're going to take it, right? No one is going to give up 7% of a sale because it's good for everyone. So this is something that we see in everyday society, right? Like, there's a lot of people who just don't pay taxes. I know tons of people who just don't pay taxes. They don't contribute in any way. They want to take from the ecosystem, like leaving the brunt of things on the rest of the people. So the nice thing about NFTs is we get to really look at these sociological structures and and they play out quickly. So like things that have happened in history are playing out in the NFT space quickly because we don't know what NFTs are. We just know that we can build anything from them. And what we're currently building is things that we've seen in the past. So those of you that are kind of NFT familiar, right, you know how big raffles are and lottery style things. Like everyone, what's our utility? We've got a raffle house. It's amazing, right? Okay, so it's not quite as silly as it sounds. It really isn't. So if we look at history, when the 13 American colonies were being built, there were a lot of Europeans that came with significant wealth, and they said, you know, I'd like to build on the new land. And what they did was they built estates that were beautiful because they had all the resources, they had tons of cheap labor, and they built these amazing houses. And as things were developing, they said, well, I'd like to move now and make something even nicer. I'm going to sell this property and go do it again. But there's no one to sell to because it was cheaper to build a new estate than it was to sell an already built one. And then if you built it yourself, you could make it exactly as you want. And then somebody said, I know what I'm going to do. The only demand for this estate is people who can't afford it. So I'm going to sell lottery tickets, and that way some worker is going to end up walking away with this estate, and from the ticket sales, I will have sold it effectively. And it was very effective. In fact, they raised more money on the lottery for the estates than they would have if they had sold them, and that money was used to develop the colonies. And this is exactly what we see playing out today in the NFT world. People make lotteries that earn more than the prize of the lottery, and people will play it. They have this risk tolerance. They say, look, I will throw in my chip every day, because if I throw in enough chips, I'm going to win. And everyone thinks that they're the person that's going to win. So like, this is not very logical, but it is what happens. So when me in the space, I'm what people call a social experimenter. And really all that means is that I make things and then look at how people react to those things to think about what we can build next. I am an engineer by trade. I write contracts. I'm a full stack developer. I've written trading algorithms. I've written facial recognition technology, blockchain voting technology, including servicing the 2020 election. So we can build anything, but we got to build things people want, right? So that gets into a very touching point, I guess, is the next one. So if we look at a project called the Anon Club, is anyone familiar with the Anon Club? It's a very small project which has an extraordinary team of engineers behind it. So these guys are working on privacy-based tools. And to me, this is probably the most impactful of the tools that we've seen in the NFT space or coming out of an NFT project. So what they've done is they allow anonymous sending, so obfuscated send. The protocol is called the Light Protocol. It's not different from a traditional mixer. So if you guys want to know how mixers work, how privacy works, it's that it's not very complicated. We have money coming from one location, and we've got a pool of recipients on the other end of it. So you send money to the pool of recipients, and then we've got a pool of senders that are disconnected from the recipients. And then when the senders send money, we cannot trace back, we cannot prove what really happened. And when you've got a lot of volume, you really can't prove what really happened. So the Light Protocol does essentially that, and on top of it, it allows you to swap things in the same manner, which was a much more complicated problem. How do you swap into different pools and change assets? And they've done all this anonymously. So that's massive for the privacy of the space, but people don't care. I mean, they've got 13,000 followers on Twitter, and they say, guys, we built this incredible thing. You know, you're thinking at that point, I could put a small fee on every transaction, and every government that's under sanction is going to start using it, right? Like that's the first thing I think. That's how big that idea could go. You can avoid sanctions. You can traffic items. You can pay employers that you aren't supposed to work for. You can have a girlfriend. And you can have another girlfriend and give one of them money. Like, people would use these things in so many ways, but no one cares. Why? They don't care because when they entered the NFT space, they said, look, we're cutting edge. We're going to make money here. We're part of the next gold rush. And we onboarded thousands and thousands of people who believe that we're part of the next gold rush. And just by being early, we made it, which is kind of astonishing. They don't care about the big utilities being made. And one of the issues is that you don't actually need NFTs to execute those. You don't need an NFT to do privacy. You can gatekeep privacy very well with an NFT. That's very easy. To use this contract, you need to actually have one of these assets. And we're gonna perform a check on every cent. But we don't know yet how NFTs really fit into the equation. So if we look at, my brother is a cynic, by the way. He does all these things. He builds everything with me. He's a fucking cynic, and it's annoying at times, but he is right. So like a month ago, he calls me and he goes, the number one utility of NFTs is selling more NFTs. And that's what he said. And I said, shit, that's not great. Because like whether or not it's true, this is perception, right? So like people have been burned quite badly in a majority of NFTs when there's some standouts that I'm gonna talk about which have avoided this fate. But it does look like that, and it looks like that because it's very unclear how to use these things. Because they don't need to be used. They're just easy to use. So when you talk about a passive income project where we say we're going to go and build Web 2 products and services, and we're going to raise money from these NFTs, and then we're going to give income to the holders. Like that doesn't have to be an NFT at all. It's effective. It's easy to find the holders of the equity and send them money when it comes in. But you're really doing it because you couldn't raise money in a different way. I mean, that's the real reason that this happens. And we've got launch pads, which if we look at Blocksmith Labs, I think that they are the epitome of this. I like them. They're great engineers. But the epitome of what they are is they are a project that helps people launch other projects and grow them and scale them. And they build software to facilitate this process. So but we're back to the echo chamber is what we call it. This is the crypto and NFT echo chamber, which is that it works because it works, and it works because it keeps going, and the utility is doing more of what we've already done. It's not very easy, right? So we have to think now, kind of as a community, what are the core steps? We're going to fix royalties. We are going to, let's see, we've got mint addresses, we don't need images, royalties are going to be fixed, and you can do a lot of tracking and gatekeeping. So the number one utility of NFTs is you can point to it, which makes it easy to find. So if it's easy to find, it's easy to build around it. You can limit access to things through it. You can allow people to build out things that they could not build otherwise, right? This is a very effective way of raising capital and then tracking the people who helped you along the line. They're great for marketing purposes because you have an entire army of people who are very dedicated to selling their liquid assets at some point. But they're tremendous at marketing because of this. It's great for growing an audience. It's great for getting conversations started. It's great for kind of really creating a community. But in terms of like what can we really do with them, we don't know. There's a lot of ideas. Like we can make assets that trade, right? We can make video game pieces, but why would Riot Games turn their skins into an NFT? They're not going to, because it literally makes no sense for them financially to do that, right? It'd be a phenomenal thing if they did, but they're not going to do it. They'd lose billions, exactly, they're not going to do it. So like, there's a lot of use cases for NFTs that are very interesting, but to grow this space, we have to realistically think, how are they going to be used? So talking more about some of the problems that the space has faced and solutions, right? It's not all negative here. So we talked about the royalties. We have a somewhat solution, but it's not perfect yet. Another problem we had was liquidity. Because when assets are illiquid, they tend to have massive price fluctuations, and you get a very emotional group of people when you have these price fluctuations. So there's an interesting tool that just came out called Hades Swap. So Hades Swap, what it does is it allows individuals to put up a pool of NFTs and a price point at which they will instantly provide liquidity. And this goes in both directions. You can always buy from the pool, and you can always sell into the pool. So if you need money now, you don't have to go list on a marketplace. If it's a high-profile project, it most likely has instant liquidity. You can go get it today. That's a really good thing, right? So like, that's a really good thing. And this was kind of promoted by HGE, if you guys are familiar with him. And the project that runs it is called ABC. It's a bunch of doodles. They literally look like kindergarten pictures, but I really like them, a lot of respect for them. But this instant liquidity is very interesting. So like a seller, like a provider to the pool can say, I'm willing to sell this NFT at 0.2 Ethereum. I've got 50 of them in the pool, and every time someone sells into the pool, the price goes down by 3% and I collect a 5% tax for providing liquidity. These are really good things. So when I heard that, the first thing I thought was, this means we can have an NFT options market. So options markets are really, really useful if we're talking about protecting price or like stabilizing price, because you create consequences for kind of bad behavior in the market. So options are very useful. So the reason that instant liquidity allows options pricing is because now you have a strike price to calculate. And that's going to be a really interesting thing, whoever pulls it off. The other things that we've created are lending, collateralized lending, so that you can collateralize an NFT, get money for it today, and then kind of pay interest to get it back. And people use this when they're betting on things, they need money right now. But the point is that if we're recreating structures and we're recreating kind of business models, we're like rebuilding a lot of Web 2 things in Web 3, and we say the key point here is that you own the information. Because when people talk about bridging the gap from Web 2 to Web 3, what they're saying is, you know, Web 1 is we read information from the internet, Web 2 we write information, Web 3 we own it. So it's like, what does owning information mean? You need financial structures around it. So the first things that we're building are ways to get lending, right? Ways to raise capital, ways to get instant liquidity on things, like ways to trade assets and like value them against each other. Like these are the initial things that we need to really build anything. So that's kind of where we're at. And this all came up in the last 6 months. Before that, there was no structure to any of this. It was just nonsense, like pumping, and people saying they're going to build a lot of interesting things which never really come out. But now that we've had this massive decline in the market, it shrank by 90% roughly, right? So like that's how much money was pulled out of the NFT market this year. It's terrible. Like things shrunk in floor price, they shrunk in daily trading volume, and no, they shrank. I see someone shaking their head. It shrank significantly. And now it's time to rebuild it. So rebuilding it is going to be going back to those initial principles. What are the NFTs? How can we use them? And whoever can figure out something that an NFT does that nothing else can do, that's going to be how we move forward in the space. No one has done it yet. NFTs are very effective at a lot of things. I want to point that out again. They're very effective. But you can do them with other tools. We still have not figured out something that is NFT specific. But it is important that we have a location that we can point to. So I'm not sure what I want to go into, but I'd like to take questions from anyone that is here. Mel.
Yeah, okay. So I wonder if are we being fair? I mean, I hate NFTs. I hated it the first place. My first NFT event was basically very art oriented because I thought like, okay, this is the time for the digital artist because that's the only thing that makes digital artist an artist, basically. Mm-hmm. So after the mechanical reproduction, we kind of lost that here and now effect of an artwork, right? And then with the digital age, it was all over the place, like the copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. And then we thought, okay, now we are talking about an authenticity of a digital product, whatever it is. So that was exciting, and I think it still has an inherent value if you think about it that way. But if we think about the use cases, like we never had that super enlightening idea of what are we going to do with the technology right away, right? When we had the computers and the personal computers, people guess that like every house is going to have one, or like not even that much, basically, or the cameras on the phone. So can we say like NFTs have their own use cases for all digital traction and specifically for blockchain activities, but it is still a totally undiscovered territory, and there's a lot to do in terms of like kind of business mining around.
There's tons of business mining around NFTs. I mean, there's a ton of things you can do to raise capital and then use their structure to benefit. I mean, just access to information is a huge thing that you can gatekeep with NFTs, because information cannot be free.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Like how for instance, like what kind of a technological tool it gives to us as the project owner?
Yeah.
Let's say we have 100 minted and distributed, airdropped NFTs, and what we can do, like what information we have available.
So, okay, I'll start abstract and then I'll try to get specific. But like one of the best things NFTs do is allow you to gatekeep information. And information cannot and should not be free in a lot of cases. Like when it's things everyone should know, it should be free. But otherwise, it should probably be gatekept, and it's very easy to implement information gatekeeping to NFTs. So if you think of, like, I'll try to give a real world example. So is anyone familiar with how Rolexes are bought and sold? Right, this is a very network, community-driven thing. If you want to sell a Rolex, you got to know a lot about it. You got to have a circle of people who are interested in buying and selling in this. There's just a lot that goes into it, which is an entirely community-driven thing. You don't just walk outside and say, I got a Rolex to sell. Like, you got to have a guide. So if you view that community as this could be an NFT, right? Because people pay significant money to be in a Rolex group. And they'll pay a lot of money to be in a group where you can buy and sell these things. Like I've seen upwards of 5,000 a year, right? So this is an NFT model. It's just in Web 2. When doing it in Web 2 is not very structured. It's actually quite difficult to maintain who's in the group, who has access to the group, did their credit card payment go through. But this is something you can do with an NFT very effectively. It's just not very sexy. It's like, what do you do? Well, I've got a Rolex community and we've got 8,000 people who know quite a lot about it, and they can value something, eyeball it, and they know exactly who wants to buy it. And if you're in this group and you're in the business of buying and selling and projecting value, like you're going to do quite well. So like, this is a very good use case for NFTs, and you can extrapolate. It's not just Rolexes. Anything where information needs to be kind of put in a small place, and if you really want in, you have to buy in. Like it's a very effective tool for that kind of thing.
Okay, just a follow-up. I briefly forgot. So this is actually, so when we're talking about this whole kind of data collection technique, I always meant the new NFTs or whatever, the Pro app or whatever it is, like with an empty wallet, basically. So like it doesn't actually track much information. And most people I know, they do it like that, right?
Yeah, dead wallets. Yeah.
Dead wallets. And also like it's the information we can extract from it, because I like what you're saying. I think it has a huge potential as a kind of, because in blockchain and in cryptocurrencies generally, what we are used to in terms of all the market research techniques that actually gets feedback from the market usage, the silent data that is not like you actively contributing to the like with the surveys and everything. That sort of data is essential for the previously dominant business model usually. And in crypto, we don't have that, basically. Like we don't have that feedback loop. What functioned, what worked, and everything, and which is a good thing on the privacy level, because you cannot really manipulate the market behavior that much. But there's still like some sort of an availability of like if they moved their assets, what did they do after receive that and everything.
Yeah, so the end of this is profiling, right? So it's like, okay, well, this is a gap that needs to be filled. It probably will be filled soon, which is the ability to profile customers based on their behavior and activity. So they want to be anonymous, but like really like, if you didn't onboard properly, or if you don't know a few tricks, like it's tough. Like you can definitely profile people. It's just very annoying to write that code. And then it's not just about writing it, it's convincing somebody that I don't know who this person is, but I know who they are, is not the easiest thing to do. But we're almost there. I mean, I know people working on this right now, and they definitely will come out with the tools. So profiling will be very important because it means we can integrate ads. And once you integrate ads, the space can grow very, very quickly, because no one is going to launch ad campaigns without profiling involved. At the moment, the way it works is you know people, and if you know the right people, then all of a sudden your project is in front of everyone in 2 days, Like that's just how it works. There's a list of people, and if you know them, then you're good to go. You can move forward. One thing I kind of do want to say for a lot of people that are minting NFTs and buying them, especially if they're just looking to make money, not to actually use them, is that when you see everyone talking about the NFT, right, 99% of the time they're trying to sell it. So when you see your favorite guy that says like, hey, like, buy this, it's amazing, blah, 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 like, it drives a lot of activity. You see spikes in volume, but like he's doing it because he's got 10 friends that want to sell them. And they said, look, we took an early position in this. And like, if you go out and say people trust you, and then they've got kind of public wallets that he says, look, I bought it at this time. And everyone says, he just bought it, everyone go. Like, he's got 10 other wallets that bought a long time ago, and those are selling now into the volume. I mean, this is just how it works. Like crypto and NFTs are very much a player versus player game. They are. It's PvP. It's just, people are in it to win it. They are not in it to make friends. And this is like a sick thing that you do figure out. It takes time to really come to that conclusion. But if you're in the space long enough, you will. They're not there to make friends. There is a small population of incredible people that really want to make friends, that are there to learn. They're there to network. They're there to give people work. They're there to work themselves. But it's a small portion of this population. And I'm in that portion of the population. We have a lot of people that I know are in it, and they're incredible people. And like the bear markets usually flush them out, so the only ones left are those people. So right now, a big difference in this bear market from the last one we had is just how many people are still here every day, how many structures are intact. The flush out process has been very fast, and I think we're going to get a much softer landing just due to that. Like, yes, there's a lot less code being written every day than there was a year ago. Well, not actually. There's a lot of code being written still. But, like, in general, people show up every day still. And all the ones who were kind of aggressively weaponizing marketing and mystery to sell to people are more or less not here every day, which is a good thing. But, yeah, that was just a warning that, you got to really think, when you see these volume spikes, like that is when you sell. Like you sell in high volume, you buy in low volume. This is just a rule for people trading to make a living, because I know a lot of people that trade to make a living and they follow all the data, but like what they're missing is that when information comes to you anonymously, right, there is a reason that it got to you. People say, I did so much research and I figured out that this happened and that happened, but these are breadcrumbs. Like, they are left there on purpose to make people buy into things. And like, this is just the punishment for having an illiquid market. It's not ideal, it's not nice, it's not a nice thing to think about, but when you have an illiquid market, people want liquidity, and they will do whatever the hell they can to get it when they need it. So yeah, so tools like HadesSwap are going to really help in these things. I do apologize for being very like doom and gloom on a lot of topics, but I don't think that we can really build the space out on Hopium. I think we do need to address like really what the issues are. Like royalties were a massive issue. They were a massive issue. All the big people in the space were extraordinarily concerned. Every single hedge fund that I know that was invested in NFTs, even at like a 3% allocation, which is massive, right? They pulled the day that it came out that there's no royalties anymore. They pulled out of everything. Like when they heard that Yaw, which was the marketplace that did 0% royalties, when they got to 40% market share, they pulled out of everything, because it's very simple to do the trajectory, which says if creators are not incentivized to continue building, they're going to stop building. And the people who kind of didn't have integrity, the second they were removed, they said, all right, project's over. That's it. They're gone. Like, that's it. You woke up and they're not there anymore. And then everyone else kind of stuck around to keep building. But like, the royalty issue was a massive issue. It's not just this little thing where we say, oh, it looks like consumers don't want to pay royalties anymore. Like, it destroys the premise of NFTs. It destroys the premise of business models where you have symbiotically aligned customer and seller, right? And like, that's a good word. Like, the way that I've described this in the past is that without royalties, people who buy NFTs are not investors anymore, they're customers. Like, there's no symbiotic relationship. They're just someone to target and continue selling things to. So you can look at some of the biggest projects that exist today, and like, what they're doing is they're selling products to their holders, Or you can't blame them. This is how they raise capital. They have to. But that's exactly what they're doing. Even projects that have tokens, they've got tokens that they've been kind of promoting this whole time. But once you break that symbiotic relationship, they go, I'm not going to help you out with this token. Like, if you want to buy my hoodie, or if you want to use this software, if you want to, like, it's going to cost dollars. Not because Sol is down, because Ethereum is down, because you've broken the symbiotic link. So royalties are very important. So teams like Cardinal and Hyperspace and Metaplex, and I don't know the Ethereum counterparts to these guys. I don't know if they've began on this yet. But like, it's very important, the work that all of us are doing to fix that, because that link is key. And if we really do fix it, like, yes, hedge funds will come back because it makes sense again. We got to make it make sense. So like, if we're going to view NFTs not as information gaps, as this, if we're going to view it as businesses, right? Like, people are building businesses. This is the hot topic right now. NFTs are ways to create real business structures where information is owned, assets are owned, it's all symbiotically aligned. If you don't have royalties, that's not real. Like, it's not possible. There's no way to make that work unless you view everyone as a customer. So I think it's important to note that, and we got to give a hand on the back to all the teams out there fixing these things today. Do you have a question? Oh, no, you're good. Okay. All right. If anyone else has questions, I'm going to be very happy to take them.
I'm really late and I missed it.
No worries, no worries.
Is it? Okay. I am really late because I got the time wrong. I thought it started at 6. So I didn't get much of what you previously covered. My already covered. It's because like, people right now are trying to expand the utility of NFTs. So do you have any do you think any project or anyone doing it good, or do you have any idea on that?
Yeah, okay. Let me think. So, I mean, there's some interesting things we could do, but the first thing I want to point out, which is I talked to these two about it before, is that on Solana, the #1 project is DGods. They're massive, right? Got a 400 Sol floor. We've got Utes set at 150, Tubes at a 250. What do they do? Like, what's their utility? What do they do? And I know Frank. Frank is a friend of mine. I like Frank a lot. I like the whole team a lot. We talk regularly, every week. But what do they do? Like, what do they do that's NFT specific? They do over 40% of the daily volume. What do they do? Nothing. But they're amazing, though, because they amazingly do nothing. And what I mean by that is that they are a very strong community. People have gone out and built coffee shops with the DGods branding. They've built gym memberships. They've built protein shakes. They've built software as a service. Why? Because they're DGods. That's why. Because you wear the NFT, because you're in that community, and you feel like something. This is a ridiculous topic if you said this in Web 2, where people are like, what the fuck are you talking about? It doesn't make any sense. But the money's there. So there's too much money in that project for it not to be real. This is not artificially created. This is a real thing. Because people have found ways to use that brand to empower themselves. They're not all going to be NFT projects, but they can use one that they're a member of to do something for themselves, right? So that's a massive utility, but it means it puts the burden of effort onto the holder, which is also an odd thing, where it's like, okay, well, why would the burden of effort be on the holder? Because if they put in that effort, then the rest of the people are going to support them, which is exactly what we've seen. People have grown extraordinary things. Blocksmith Labs is the 3rd or 4th biggest project. It's the lead engineer at DGods who started that project. He got propped up by them and supported to do it. And what does he do? He does a launchpad, and he does services to help people make their own things. A lot of kind of interesting software, but it's not a unique NFT utility again. So what are we going to see as a unique NFT utility? I don't know. So the popular ones are passive income models. I'm designing something like this, right? But it's not unique to NFTs, where you create some business which has revenue, and you have to find a symbiotic relationship with the holders to give them passive income. This is one. We can have mint for an audience, right? So if you're making a television show, you could make 100,000 NFT collection, mint it for free, and give some kind of interactive ability to it. Now you've minted for an audience, and the product is views. That's what you're trying to get. You're trying to get views. This is very easy to do with NFTs. You've got little inside informational groups. You've got job hiring boards. You've got financial market analysis. You've got anything where information can be gatekept. NFTs are very good for it. But there aren't a lot of things that like we can't do in other ways. What NFTs really do is they streamline things that are otherwise kind of difficult to execute. But you got to get creative with it. If you're a project founder, you got to get creative. What do we have? We've got easily identifiable people, easily transferable assets, and a symbiotic link between us and them. Like you need those three things, and then you can build most businesses, right? But what you're not going to do is raise money and then give equity, and then like that, it stops there, right? You're not going to go build a company that lives for 7 years and you pay equity to people, to a bunch of 18-year-olds that bought this NFT 7 years ago. It's not. I mean, at some point, an accountant's going to step in and be like, "What the hell's going on here?" It's just I got to say it. You know, no one likes to hear that one either. But I mean, that's what it is. So what are NFTs useful at? Channeling information, identifying people, building up communities, building a brand, finding people that are good at things, right? That's what they're good at. So when I built games, right, what I did was I found the people that won the games who would perform very well, and I hired them. Most of the time they were engineers. And then, I mean, this is just what it was. So that was, for me, the most effective thing was identifying talent. As a social experimenter, it makes sense that that's what I would find. I found the people that I thought were extremely bright, and I said, well, let's go build more things. Let's go build more interesting games, right? And NFTs don't need to have this financial component. That's how you get attention, right? So what's the utility of NFTs? It's that. It's access to information. It's that they're easily located. You can point to them, and you can create structures around them. It's like what makes a house valuable where it is. Houses are valuable not because of the house. It's because of where the house is, and then you add on top of it. You know, it's a lot cheaper if you go north to live in Bali because it's not as desirable. But like this location is more desirable. It's more expensive. So mint addresses of NFTs are the same way. People know how to find them because they're familiar with marketing channels or what they do or what access they give, what information they give. That gives them value. That's the utility. The utility is that it's easy to point to why this thing should be valuable. It's very easy to say why it shouldn't also. So that's the utility. So anything people build has to kind of be around that premise. And at the moment, like, we're kind of drifting. And like when you see the market have massive fluctuations, it's because you drift from the core principles. And like they say that it's something that it's not. When you say it's something that's not, you're going to get a massive surge, and then it's going to crash down, and you have a lot of angry people. And you don't want angry people because you can't keep building when you've got angry people. But we have a lot of great people left, right? And I think that the future of NFTs is going to be really good. But we do have to remember that it's access, and like things have to be built around access. I hope that answers the question. I kind of rambled on a lot there, but. All right, thank you. We have another one, or you want to take it?
Yeah. So normally I wanted to have like a little workshop session. Maybe we still do it, but the rest of the people who went to the dinner place are like very impatient. So we keep it. We do it like as an introduction to that. But I just want to ask you. So the whole thesis that I have around what's happening and the whole catastrophic financial season for 2022 was basically because, in my mind, is mainly because we are trying to isolate the financial part of cryptocurrencies and blockchain and ignoring all the morals that comes with open blockchain, basically. And here there's kind of a similar thing. So what I'm talking about, basically, if we are talking about making money with crypto, then you choose centralized exchanges. It has its own inherent contradiction just by doing that. So like you're taking something that is designed to have the self-custody for, and then you give that away to someone who says like, don't, like, trust me, I'm gonna give you this much of return. So this takes it all
ridiculous,
out of
yeah.
context, basically. And when we are trying to separate all the morals, all the like principles that came out of the open with the open blockchain, and just use it for financial benefits, there's this tension, and there comes huge consequences. And I think when we are trying to do the same, okay, like cryptocurrencies inherently has that kind of a, like, it's not the best thing for privacy, that's for sure. More like on the transparency side. Bitcoin is a little bit better. Ethereum is a bit worse. Monero, Zcash, and everything, it's just a bit better. But eventually it doesn't point out to a person, right? It's just a wallet address. Do you think is there a tension when we are using NFTs as a pointer to the personal data or use with the privacy itself, because you're also interested in?
Do I think it's a problem is the question, right? Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that go on in the NFT space where people say, oh, this guy sold an NFT and he's got 150,000 US, right? So like people like shouldn't have this information. They definitely shouldn't. But I mean, this is not really a flaw of the blockchain process because we can hide things. It's more about educating people on how to hide things. So like when I brought up the Light protocol earlier, right? Like I could use that in between all my public-facing transactions, right? If I go buy an NFT, if I go transfer this to a friend, like I can do it via the Light protocol. So just go to a non-club 888, you will find it very quickly. Like you can use that today, and now all your privacy concerns are solved. So it's already a solved problem. It's just how do you educate people to use it, and then how do you like convince them to do it is another thing. Because like if you're adding 35 seconds to someone's routine, like for some reason they don't do it. They don't want to do it. They're like, it's 35 seconds. I got to mint this NFT, right? I don't have 35 seconds. So I mean, it's educating them to do it and use the tools that are available to them. But I do think that privacy is a big concern because, like myself, no one knows anything, right? Like not even my holders know anything, not even like my friends know anything. Mom doesn't know anything. No one does, because I believe in privacy, and I use these tools to make sure that there is that level of privacy. But I found it's quite difficult to motivate people to do it because there's this, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, like, why do you care who sees? And it's like, well, that's not really a good argument. Like, it just isn't. So I think that it comes down to making it easy. And making it easy means making people know where it is, how to use it. Can you get it as a Chrome extension? Can you, it's not a website now it's built in. Do I trust this contract? Right? That's a whole nother. People don't read contracts, by the way. Like these on Ethereum, you can go read the fucking contract. To go to mint an NFT, you can read it on Etherscan. You can see exactly what's going on. People, like really smart people, have found great things from this. Like one guy figured out how to mint the sevens early. This was 2.5 Ethereum mint price, right? I mean, like with gas, it was 2.5 Ethereum. And he said, all right, though I found a way to mint it kind of early, and it only cost me 0.09 Ethereum to get it. And I bought a fuck ton of them. And this guy just made a ton of money on the first day because he dropped the floor. Why? Because he read the contract. He found a vulnerability. People don't do that. And it's not even that they don't do it. It's very difficult to do. I mean, Ethereum is a lot easier. I mean, Solana, they're written in Rust. There's a lot of engineers that don't read Rust easily. I mean, I write in all these languages. I can tell you Rust is by far the worst one to write in. But like people do not read them. So like privacy is a very important topic that I think is very back of mind for most people. Because if they're not going to take the time to spend 30 seconds to enact privacy, they're not going to read contracts. Like, this is an educational problem. So like, oftentimes in this space, when you run into these educational problems, like royalties, what's an educational problem? People literally were saying, market doesn't want them, so they're not, right, this is an educational problem. They don't understand why it's important. They don't understand why privacy is important. So when you've got these educational problems, you've got to decide, am I going to do it with the carrot or am I going to do it with the stick? am I going to incentivize these people to read information? So then if you say, I'll give you a token if you read these documents, they're not going to read it. They're going to skip to the end. But give me my fucking token. I'm selling it. Because like this is really what consumers are like, right? So like to educate them, I tend to think the stick works a bit better. But which is like, so like, look, if you don't use this thing, you can actually use this. You can't mint this unless you use an anonymous wallet, right? And like I think that works really well, because then they say, well, why are they doing that? And then they start reading. And like actually getting burned a lot like is what gets people educated. When people go mint something and then get drained, they're upset. Like when they get a wallet drained, like let's say they are new to the space, they've got 20,000 US in a wallet, they don't know much about crypto, they've got a software wallet, they interact with the contract and it drains them. And like they never thought that could happen. They're like, I'm very careful. I've got my seed phrase written down in my grandma's bunker that she has in case there's a nuclear war and nobody knows where it is. I'm safe. But they don't read the contract. And the contract says, hey, if you click OK, I'm going to take all your money and go on vacation in the Bahamas. Like they don't read that, and it's right there for them. So like when they get burned, that's when they get educated. And it starts off by getting them angry. Because then they stare at that computer and they can't believe it. They're like, where did it go? I'm going to go on Etherscan. I'm going to track it down. I'm going to figure out where my money went. And then they find it, and they're like, oh, fuck, it's gone. You can't get it back. But anyways, that's how you motivate people to get educated. They get burned enough, then they're like, I'm not going to let this happen again. Next time I'm going to be safe.
I have a comment. I mean, if we expect people to read the smart contracts...
You can't.
No, it basically means that the technology is not ready.
Correct.
So that's why the market is still small.
It's not ready, yeah.
And also the... Yeah, it's so in terms of privacy, I mean, by the way, I've been working on the user experience and use cases maybe more than maybe 15 years. And I've done this in several industries from the digital perspective. So expecting the consumers, users to learn these technical details is not realistic at all.
I expect them not to. I do not think they ever will.
And also in terms of privacy, the technology, the smart contracts should be providing the privacy. That's why zero knowledge community is working on that. I mean, I'm working with zero knowledge protocols.
Yep.
So, and then I think the whole zero knowledge protocols are doing quite well.
Oh, we're very close to this, what you're describing.
We are very close.
We've already seen it. I mean,
yeah.
if you can swap a token for another token anonymously, you can do anything.
Yeah.
Anything.
So, I mean, the consumers doesn't know any contracts. They shouldn't be reading any contracts. So they should be... Also,
I agree.
We shouldn't be educate them. We should educate ourselves.
I agree. Yeah.
And technology should be seamless. That's otherwise this market would stay just very small.
I agree. If you don't make it seamless, but yeah, we cannot expect consumers to read smart contracts, right?
Yeah.
We also cannot expect people to not make malicious ones. We can't.
Yeah, that's why now the market shouldn't be open to individuals for investment, ideally.
Well,
but it is open.
It cannot be, right?
Yeah, it is open, so that's why we have all these problems.
But it can't be closed. It's not possible. Someone will find a way.
There might be some regulations might.
It doesn't matter because the only way to close it is to say you can't off ramp.
So
right.
What I'm trying to say, if right now the individuals, the market is not ready for individuals.
But it will have individuals. Like the point I'm trying to make is you cannot close them out. Nobody can. It doesn't matter what. I don't care if Biden comes tomorrow and says I'm going to incarcerate everyone who uses it. It doesn't matter. They're still going to use it. It's literally going to stop nothing. Like the regulation will not stop people from using the space. It will make it more difficult to off-ramp.
Sure, that's another conversation, but that's why the market is 90%
Correct.
smaller this year. That's exactly because
Correct.
of all these reasons. So.
Correct. These are the big problems, right? And like, it might be that like, how do you the user at the end of the day when crypto is kind of mainstream, and it's exactly what you described. They don't know that they're interacting with these things. It'll feel like they're doing anything else. So you're right, that is the end goal. but we also can't expect people not to be malicious. Like, I don't think we can put that expectation on anybody. Like, people are going to be malicious, and it's kind of like the user's due diligence to not be a victim. And as like mean as that sounds, like that is the reality. Like, it is their responsibility to not be a victim. And like, it's good for us to help people and say, look, you should use a ledger. You should use something which doesn't send your private key online, right? Like, these are important things to teach people. But like, we absolutely cannot say, hey, all you creators, like, don't be malicious. They will. They're always going to be people have been malicious throughout all of history. It's always been that way. There's no just everyone's kind. Everyone's going to be nice to each other. It's not. It sounds great, but it's not the reality. People are kind when everyone's doing well, but as soon as they tighten, they're not kind anymore. When everyone's making money, it's like, oh, I'll give you this, I'll give you that. Yeah, come. No, as soon as the market slides, they're like, no, fuck off. People like literally built a lot of drainers. After royalties got removed, people built a lot of drainers. Just drained everybody because they were angry, and that's how they reacted. But yeah, it's a very good point. Like, you can't expect people to read contracts. You just have to, promote the ones that are good. Anyways, thank you, everyone.
Okay, so the rest of the people are super impatient, but I want to do it very quickly. First time you call me crazy, he calls me crazy, and the second time it's okay, and then third time it's fun, so I'm just gonna do it anyway. So I want to just have a couple of answers from you. First of all, this whole thing, and I'm gonna kind of keep doing it for most of our events, hopefully in 2023. Starting with, what did we do right? So we can just like have 3 answers for each. So I wanted to have initially a SWOT analysis for blockchain and cryptocurrencies, the Web3 space, at the end of each presentation event, because I think it's important to understand what's the strength, what's the opportunity, what's the weakness, what's the threat here. Because we are mainly builders, investors, and contributors of this space. And this is what we really care about as S21. But today, okay, like we can name like maybe a couple of ones, starting with strength. Like what do we see as the strength of cryptocurrencies and blockchain? And it actually gives us the reason why we are still like at the bear market, like hanging in there, and still trying to like do these events, although losing like half of our portfolio. So I think it is important. And finally, I want to ask you, what did we do right, you think, as Bali crypto communities, S21? I'm going to take the most what we couldn't do right. I can start with that, but like let's just do it quickly. Who wants to say like what's the strength of cryptocurrencies and blockchain generally? Like what do you think is like the biggest strength? Why not? Why are you not a Web2 professional? Why are you not working in Microsoft as a developer? Why are you not investing in all the rest of the products that's actually like comes with a much bigger safety protocols? Because when we are cheering for generally regulations, I think we need to understand what is at stake first, then to actually invite regulations or like more state intervention or anything like that. So what do you think is a strength? Do you want me to get started? Yeah. Sorry. Can we?
Transnational?
I love that. Do you want to say anything about like what's transnational mean? Like it's
Fuck the nation country.
So open blockchain is transnational. it doesn't matter which country you're coming from, where are you living, that and this. Like, it's not really like when we're talking about today. We did actually in one talk like KYC. Like KYC is a good solution, but it makes the users pay for the compensate for the security lack. You ask for the users to do KYC, to sacrifice from their own privacy to make the whole system more secure. Whereas it has to be on the builders and the founders and the initiators of the whole thing. And I can actually like plug in, your system should be resilient to go on, even if I am cheating. So it shouldn't allow me or the founders to cheat. This is all about blockchain. And transnational, yeah, it's a very good one, because when we're talking about regulations, it comes with biases of the regulators and the different regional cultural backgrounds and everything. So transnational actually like brings us all around mathematics, which is supposed to be universal. So Ken.
So future opportunities. I think the main part is opportunities. So yeah, like the industry creates a lot of opportunities for people to come and do things.
We have a whole section called opportunity.
Sorry?
We have a whole section called opportunity.
Oh, all right. Yeah. Okay.
Strength,
Okay.
opportunity,
Innovation and curiosity. So I think with opportunities and innovation, it evokes curiosity in humanity. So they tend to stick in the.
So yeah, it is innovative. Like when we're talking about, if we stick with the core values of open blockchains, then we see the actual initial like seed idea that motivated Satoshi to find solutions for a financial problem, double spending problem, with a certain ideology. And if we go back to the innovation power of the like overcoming the things with the technology, with the use of math, then we can build more resilient systems. We are doing a SWOT analysis of blockchain and crypto space generally. So we have so far transnational for strengths and opportunity, innovation, creativity also.
I still think opportunities could be the strength. So you have the industry, and the strength of that industry is that there are a lot of opportunities, right? And that's why people are coming there.
So vast options, like the many options it provides, is like different sectors and like.
Opportunities like to build money, or to build companies, to earn money, to build communities, right? To innovate. So that's what like why we are going there, because there is opportunity for us to do something.
Okay, curiosity also.
Okay, yeah.
Let's hang in there. So opportunity, like when we're talking about again on blockchain, like it's why are we building something on blockchain instead of just Web 2 or like something that is ownership exactly. Thank you.
I think ownership is the key to the whole thing. Yeah. So like if you're even using a currency which has monetary policy, you don't own it. Yeah. You literally do not own it, because like Bitcoin solved double spend, but it also removed monetary policy. Yeah. So if anyone's ripped that is says like this is always the problem at the end of the day. We say, hey, we've got gold, and that's why this has value. Yeah. But then when there's no gold, there's no value. So ownership is the build as well.
Yeah, and I really care about this part, because if we don't get the best and the most out of the owning your own assets, we are never going to understand what it means to own your own data. And we are talking about Web 3. It's just going to be like, and then we are talking about Web 5, like the self-sovereign identities. It's not gonna work. Even if we have been in the space for long enough and everything, if we don't even understand the notion of the importance of the self-sovereignty, ownership of your data, of your assets, we are never going to make the most out of Web 5, and there's no point of talking about mass adoption, basically.
I think transparency.
Transparency, of course, yes. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, but yeah, like I think for me, one of the big reason I'm into crypto is for transparency, right? You can see everything that happens. Like people when they're trading stocks or something, you cannot see like the order flow. Like you can see, but they can do many backdoor things. But in crypto, like you know who exchanged which coin to go where. Like you can scramble it at the end, but still there's a lot more transparency that there is in the real world.
So I'm putting privacy in as a weakness because we have all the privacy needing solutions there as a weakness. Like we are still not yet there, so we can. That's also a thing. Like, and G would explain it better probably. When we are talking about the blockchain trilemma, there's always a compensation, right? Like you cannot have it all. But for what uses you're consecrating and sacrificing for what needs to be justified so that we can actually talk about the innovation even, right? Anyone to add to strengths or weakness? Okay, authenticate. We can maybe like permissionless. Can we put it here? Permissionless in strengths. Permissionless basically is one of the really like the core of it because it allows. It is one of the things that put everyone at the same place. Just because I'm gonna get that like just to edit there. And authorization is a weakness. Yes. Authorization.
So,
Yes, please.
yeah, so I think I would like to share two parts. The first part is capital efficiency, or you can see the information efficiency. It's kind of you empower the information flow, the capital flow, the kind of ownership with the blockchain technology, and this could be the fundamentally about the technology part. But the second part, I would say, the good thing about blockchain is that it incentivizes the good behavior. It's not about you totally eliminate the bad behavior. It's a kind of incentivized mechanism. It really encourages people to do the good things. So I think people work for the zero knowledge or the roll-ups. They are probably very familiar with that. Everyone could validate, and everyone could see the on-chain activity. So that's the two part I think is.
What would you name that again?
Sorry.
What would you name that as a?
I would say that it's strengths, but there's always a dilemma there. The strength, one of the strengths is the capital efficiency, information efficiency. I think that's could be dramatically improved.
So yeah, the system actually comes up with its own rewarding and punishment
and the
system,
kind of
right.
incentivized mechanism. So that's the two thing.
Anyone who wants to come up with a weakness?
I think unregulated is a strength.
That's a very good discussion.
I think it's a strength because I don't believe in protecting people. I believe in educating them. I do not believe in regulating.
So maybe we can put here, it's unbiased because it's a technology, right? Like it's the transnational, when we are talking about the transnational, and it regulates itself, it continues, there was a term for that, it continues doing what it's supposed to do at the presence of bad actors. I mean, it all started like that, right? And when there comes a punishment, like if you propose something and it's not passed, there's a financial punishment usually, but it's like all this happens without anyone's need to comment or like interpret anything. Basically, it happens by itself, right? Weakness, yeah.
Awareness, the kind of.
Awareness and education, yeah.
It's a very big weakness because it's the big gap to really understand things is massive. Like it's really easy to onboard and it's really hard to
Yeah,
learn how to
ease.
actually do things. It's so high. I mean, it takes months and months to even have a sense of what's going on. Years, yeah. Once you just get the tip of the iceberg, you know. You learn quickly, but I mean, like, it's true, and like I think one of the big things that people miss is that like,
Please, can you,
a lot of people speaking are not there to help you. Like there are voices that are trying to educate people, but some of the loudest voices are literally trying to fuck you over every single day. And you've got this very naive group of people who are like, oh my God, this guy is my friend. No, he's not. Like the thing is, I know these people by names. I know the loudest voices. I'm in a lot of these chats, and like some of them are literally called the underground, and they think it's hysterical. Like they have a systematic way of getting something in front of millions of people, like, and they can do it. It will happen. Like when then that guy reading articles, he's got all his news sources, he's got all the things, says, I've done the research, this is a good thing. Guys, it doesn't even exist. Like it's systematic the way they get it in front of people. They're like, okay, well, how do people analyze information? Where do they look? Okay, I need a guy here who writes articles. I need one of the journalists at this place. I need to figure out the Twitter algorithm. I need to do this, and they will put information in front of you. That's a weakness, right? But like the weakness is education on what things are, and there's this big mystery around what blockchain is, what NFTs is, what crypto is, and that's why people are so easily targeted, because it's very easy to spend money, because you can buy NFTs with a credit card. Do you know how ludicrous that is? Because like it's like, okay, well, if you're buying it with a credit card, who's issuing the seed phrase? Like, do you even know how that works? Because this happened with Slope. Right? Slope had a vulnerability in the seed phrases, and people lost a lot of money. Slope is just a software wallet. People lost a lot of money. That was supposed to be safe. Now we're talking about taking a Visa credit card and buying an NFT with it, and if you're doing that, you don't even know what a wallet is.
Yeah, so like this is exactly, for instance, when we are trying to make it easy to onboard, then we are falling into another weakness of privacy. So like while we are building, actually this can be a very good mind map at one point, like how to navigate. And when we are talking about like onboarding more than like 50 million of users into NFT space, kind of like what are we actually like sacrificing there? It's important. I'm gonna give one thread here. So I think, I mean, obviously Bitcoin is, like it's all started with not only a digital currency, but also a disruptive mechanism for the whole organizational, top-down organizational structure, basically. And this is never going to change. Today we had this interview with a couple of people, Adrian, Keaton, Kayesh. So I think when we're talking about like, okay, how to make ourselves more lovable, like how can they just like don't see us as, which was a case like drug dealers and some outcasts, which happened, but it's never going to be like super likable because it has its potential to disrupt the whole systems. And so here I'm gonna put the threats as like kind of, yeah.
The people calling us drug dealers are the drug dealers. So like that's an important distinction.
Did you watch the U.S. hearing? They couldn't even think of the second country who does money laundering except Iran. It was pathetic. Are we still recording?
It's an important point that like they make a lot of money. Regulators make a lot of money on illicit trade. They make a lot of money by dominating illicit trade, and like 'cause those are massive industries. I mean that's just the truth. I mean, what's the number one thing in crypto? Gambling. what do people want? Gambling. Like, I mean, I'll give a really quick example. So like I was talking to a group of kind of NFT interested people, and I said, look, I could offer you guys information. So like one piece of information I gave was you should short Tesla at 188. Right, Tesla's 126 right now. So this is like solid information, which it could have gone the other way, but in this example, this was solid information. And people say, well, no, give me a coin flip. Give me a coin that I can flip with a 50% chance of going to zero and a 50% chance of doubling. And they are so much more interested in that. Right, like so much more interested. It's like you could teach them technical analysis. Like it's not easy to explain things to people. So we got to remember that when we're onboarding, they want something very, very easy. Like why don't they want to like short a security? Because it's complicated. It's not easy to even know what that means. I released a 50-page document explaining what shorting a security meant because I thought it's important to educate it. The people who did short it, who didn't know what it was, they didn't read the document. They're not going to read it. So like it's just an important thing to know. Like in everything that we're discussing, like education is the most important thing, but like motivating people to want to be educated is a whole different conversation. And when we talk about like perception of the people, like there's gonna be malicious people. The people calling us malicious are the malicious people. Like this is literally a fact. Like do you know how much money that the government makes by stealing people's Bitcoin? They literally go in their houses. They take the Bitcoin and then they put it up at police auction. You can just Google this. This is like known information. That's criminal.
That's the beauty of it, honestly.
There's
like,
a lot of
that's
it.
the
It's
beauty
criminal.
of it. Like that's why. I mean, this is each time we are talking about it. Like for instance, here I put like disrupting anti-traditional, and here there's risky as a weakness. So we are trying to reach out for regulations. Our motivation is less risky and more safe products, investments, but the regulation side motivation is less anti-traditional and less threatening people power, basically. So it is. We need to understand different motivation when we are seeking something to regulate it, or like even to come up with a functioning product. Sorry, Sissy.
Yeah, no worries. So, thanks. I think to add to the opportunity and threat, like the opportunity is the one thing I would forget: decentralization. So fair access to community, and then the threat part will be to add from Shaq's point, which is weaponization and malicious intent. So, yeah, I think that's it. Thank you. Weaponization.
I just want to throw one more thing out. Like as regulators are not necessarily our friends because they regulate us. Like I think it's very important to draw this distinction. I mean, I'll give an example from last week. We had the FOMC meeting, right, where a lot of people believed, okay, we've got this fraudulent CPI report that came out, which is absolutely ridiculous the way that they wrote that, where they used seasonal medical adjustments to make the number appear strong. The market reacted in such a strong way. You know, the market flew off of this news. We had the S&P 500 at 4140, right? So, and then immediately the next day, people are like, all right, well, now the Fed is probably incentivized to pivot at some way, pivot or decelerate. And they accelerated. They did the 0.5, which everyone expected, but they increased the terminal rate, and then Powell went on to say, I'm probably going to do it again, right? So then what happens that Friday? So that Friday was a very bad day in the market because it was the reality is setting in day. And one of the securities, which was kind of in the danger zone, was Meta. Because we all know what happened with Meta, right? So this is a very important story, by the way. So Meta has shrank significantly because it's difficult to gauge whether or not they were responsible with their budget. And they made these massive expansions into things that were not necessarily revenue generating, and then the stock tumbled. So what did JP Morgan do at 4 o'clock in the morning that Friday when they were at risk of falling? They were coming off something called a quadruple top, right? So it tried to break through a zone 4 times. It's now entering a gap, which means that it stands to lose a lot on that day if it hits that gap. At 4 o'clock in the morning, they upgraded Meta. They upgraded it. I read the upgrade. The upgrade said, we believe that they will be more fiscally responsible. But why did they choose to upgrade Meta on that day? Because in the previous quarter, they added 10% of to their position at an average price of 183, right? and they had 18,000 options expiring on that Friday if it fell below a certain point. So like, it's not that it's wrong to say, I believe that Meta will be more fiscally responsible. It's the timing of that statement, because you need retail to come in and protect these institutional investors who have wrote options. That's malicious. Protecting that, using your position as a financial regulator, giving people a sign of hope and say, you know, we know that today is a horrible day in the market, but this is a saving grace. Like, it comes out on that day for a reason, and it's written so specifically because no one can go back and say, you know, that was malicious. They can say, well, I believe it. But you released it on the day you had 18,000 options expiring. That's a lot of options because each one represents 100 shares. So I mean, they're not your friends, is the point I'm trying to make. So, like, living under the delusion that these people are
that's
friends.
actually the thing. Like, even if they were friends, even if, like, your friends would be the regulators, they can change. When the new people
regulators can
come,
change.
yeah, like, or they can, same regulations in another country, it's going to be different. The whole point of it is basically to build timeless systems, timeless and non-contingent, that doesn't depend on the actor's goodwill. And that's a very big strength.
Sovereignty appears way more appealing to me. Sovereignty, right? Like, actually having sovereignty. But like
I'm putting also kind of what blockchain tries to do.
But sovereignty comes with responsibility. And it's like, now the question is, like, do we want that responsibility? We as a blockchain crypto community, are we willing to take on the responsibility? Because, like, what is bridging the gap from Web 2 to Web 3? What is it? Like, it is literally, I've gone from I can write information to the internet to I own information on the internet. That's what it is. So when we talk about bridging the gap, all we're saying is we are building mechanisms that allow us to own things. Right, but owning those things comes with responsibility. One of those responsibilities is protecting them. One of those responsibilities is not giving it away. One of those responsibilities is not like getting robbed. It's my responsibility to protect myself. If someone ran in here with a gun and tried to shoot me, it's my responsibility personally to protect myself. I'm not going to make a phone call and say, all right, police, come stop them. They've already shot me. Like, I'm dead. Like,
I think this is we are being super hypocritical in this one. Like, oh, it's so easy. Why don't you
it's
build
not
a
easy.
MetaMask? It's not
so
easy at
it's
all.
so
And it
difficult.
shouldn't be. It's like
so
a whole
difficult.
social economic transformation we're talking about.
It's
it
so
comes
difficult.
with like responsibility and workload.
I don't think it's going to happen tomorrow, but I don't think that we'll get there unless we call it like it is. Because when we're saying regulation, we're saying we want assurances. We want assurances that we will be protected. But like, if you move into the I own everything, I own my own things, that means you don't get assurances. Like, the deal, the trade-off that we have made as a society is I don't own anything, but I have assurances against the person holding it for me, because they say, I will protect it for you. So like, do you want to own things or do you not? You can't have it both ways. Like, so you have to choose. And I think it's like the second that you decide to make that decision, right, it might take 10 years to learn how to really do that. And then you will teach your children how to really do it, and they will teach their children. But if you want ownership, you lose the assurance of safety. It's just what it is. Yeah, agree.
Because
I agree.
everything tangible, we can't own it. You can't own a dog. You can't own a house.
You can own it, but like actually
No, you
traditional
can't
own
really-
it
you can't
always
really-
mediates by
you
the
can't-
civil law.
Yeah, no,
That is
like
the ground of it.
Like, the law is fake. It's like by nature you
Agree.
can't own
Yeah,
a
it's not
pet.
real.
You can't own land. Land is not yours
Exactly.
to
You
own.
don't own the land. I like that
yeah.
you know that you
Yeah.
don't actually own the land.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Yeah. And the creation, the creation, the data that
Exactly.
you create digitally is the thing, the only thing I think human beings can own.
My favorite thing about this topic is that the most common answer is people say, well, that's not going to happen to me. But it did happen to someone today. Just because it wasn't you doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It did happen to someone. I mean, we had all these celebrities recently who are trying to point this out. I'm not going to name names because it's so polarizing. But the point they're trying to make is the same. They're very pro-blockchain. They're very pro-ownership. But they're also pro-responsibility. And they say, look, I have positioned myself so that I can't be attacked. People say, have multiple passports. Why? Because it's protection. Like, that's what it is. I've got multiple passports. I've got multiple names to use. But, like, not everyone can do that. But everyone can if they, like, look forward to it, if they think it through. There's ways to do a lot of things. But the expectation cannot be that tomorrow people are personally responsible. The expectation is that we look at 10, 20 years into the future and say, how can we every day become a little more personal responsible? Can you be responsible for 0.1 Bitcoin, right? Because if you can be responsible for 10,000 Bitcoin. You can. It's just a different number. But, like, can we teach people how to do things in, like, a reasonable way? And, like, I do agree, it's not nice. It's not nice at all. And it doesn't sound nice. It doesn't sound good. No one's going to give you a hug when you get things stolen. But, like, it's not nice, but it's true. That, like, if you want ownership and you want to, like, get value, when you say, I make a TikTok video and I don't want 3% of the revenue, I want 100% of the revenue. Well, if someone steals your video and they make 100%, like, that's on you. But, like, you wanted 97% more. That's the trade-off. So, like, if you want to, go for it. But, like, we can't sit here and pretend that we get everything.
Thank you.
Sorry.
It's okay. I'll just build a little bit about the sovereignty and regulated. I think it's just one sentence. Code is law. So if you need to, for the retail users, for the massive adoption, you need the protection from someone. It's not a human being. It's the code. You can see, like, from, like, the falling apart of BlockFi, the first asset they give back is Avi because it's on-chain asset, and the protocol is built that way. And for those people who accuse us for being not transparent drug dealer because we are disruptive, their profit, their industry, and also they are not well known. Their protocols could be absolutely tracked. They are the on-chain track record. We are all follow the whale alert. Everything is on-chain is visible. And on the other side, there are other protocols. You can stay absolutely anonymous. So they are just like different protocol to implement. And all this information, there's a barrier about that back to the education part, so for people to really understand. But some people just choose to not understand. When you say one thing, they accuse another because we are doing something disruptive.
So something that I think, on that point, something I think will be built in the very near future. When you go make a transaction on your software wallet, right, it says this amount is being sent to this amount. This amount is being sent to this amount. Because that wallet is reading the contract it's about to interact with, and it says this is what's going to happen. So we need to add into that, this information is going to be exposed here. Right. So, like, that's how people lose seed phrases like that. Like, because, like, it says, the contract says, so I'm going to give you nothing and you're going to give me your seed phrase. And, like, people just see, like, okay, like, approve. But, like, if you make that really easy to read, it's going to help. Right. And, like, so, like, Phantom, MetaMask, like, Trust, all these people, they need to, and, like, I'll go find them. I'll talk to them about building this. But, like what we need to do is that. We have to say, like, read the contract and really get good at determining what malicious lines of code look like and put a giant fucking flag on the transaction that says, hey, maybe this is not a good idea. Like, that's how you solve the problem.
Yeah, and also build on why Ethereum is the most security, because everyone is validating. They have the most validators. So this is how we really fix the protection, the regulation, and the sovereign part.
ETH is great. Solana has a better Nakamoto index than ETH does, but ETH is great. I'm not going to contest that. The one thing I will point out on ETH is that a lot of those validators are hosted on AWS. So Bezos has a lot of control over ETH. You know, if something happens, something happens. but like I'm a big fan of ETH. One of the things I will say about Ethereum that they've done very well is that their docs are fucking great. Like, they're so easy to read. It's so easy to learn if you're like a new Ethereum developer. Whereas, like, if you're a sole developer, they're really like, hey, good luck. Like, like, do your best. We're not going to tell you anything about Rust. We're only going to tell you about, like, using JavaScript to implement kind of program level interactions, and that's it. But, like, ETH, I will give them that. They're very good on the education side.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone to add to the host? I mean, just to give, like, low performance. Low performance for weakness. Of course. Low performance of who? Yeah. Low. I mean, I'm more interested in. I mean, personally, I'm interested in like this whole like mass adoption, market appreciation, for instance, is an opportunity, but it can be a threat as well because it makes it more weak. And if the mass adoption is pushed or untimely, then we sacrifice from all the strengths and opportunities altogether, and that creates the vulnerability for the whole ecosystem. So I think like the whole point of like doing this, whenever we are talking about, whenever we are, when we think we are activating an opportunity or boosting a strength, maybe we should be careful if we're falling down to one of the weaknesses or the threats, because there can be a different motivation or and unexpected consequences. Anyone to add to opportunity or threat or like sorry.
Yeah, I'd like to add on blockchain being just a tool. So like just checking on how people behave with it and interact is nothing new. Like there's a lot of malicious behavior and a lot of people get upset about it, but that's just the way it is. And speaking of mass adoption, just like 2 cents on my point, it's a flipped model of technology not being like, we've got to learn behavior of technology being foolproofed. Like Windows itself, why it got more popular than Linux, it's not just because it's better, it's just because it's better for mass adoption. It's just like, are you sure that you want to delete this thing? Yes, I'm sure. Are you really sure? Are you really, really sure? So it just makes it easier for other people to use it. And with blockchain, it's nothing of that sort. And it shares this pain of like own responsibility for something that we are learned not to think about it. We think of banks, we think of job providers as someone who is like, it's the same pattern. Like we just using this blockchain as a mean to like secure, like, okay, let's talk crypto, like secure money, right? But then the same behavior of like blaming someone else for something that, for any insecurity that is introduced into our lives, like that's why we have entrepreneurs. Some states nurture that to like go like against corporates, someone not. So this just like follows the same pattern to me, and we've been like that for ages. Like some people liked to use, like someone came up like thousands of years ago, someone came up with the concept of like using fire. I'm pretty damn sure that there were like plenty of people that were thinking that it's like wrong, right? Like 200 years ago, people still believed that taking a bath is dangerous because that's how you spread the germs, right? So like we're gonna have, to the opportunity, wrapping up, to the opportunity, I would like to add that it would help us to evolve as species, generally speaking, because there's been so much wiring introduced that delegates responsibility to someone else. It was so conveniently made that like we can blame someone for whatever the mistake that we are making. And what is a better way to teach someone how to be self-reliant and responsible than letting the individual transact with the most important asset in life, which is like time, which is money is another currency of time. So when you let someone else to transact with your time, then you just teach them how to be better in a way.
Yeah, I think so. This is the whole point of again doing this is like when we go a bit more in detail, technology related or business related or professionals related issues. Of course, there are millions we can add here. This is more about like yeah, I mean, especially tech related. But I think like it's important to understand that like it is going to a certain direction, and there comes also some, for instance, we are talking mostly about the FTX, Celsius, all the Terra, everything that's gone bad this year. But merge, it's been expected the whole time, and it happened, successfully happened. And, well, less environmentally disruptive now. So it is an evolving thing. That's why it needs a full conscious each time of every investors and every contributors. That's also, I think, important to have, like, just to start this. I think people are super impatient in the venue. Maybe just to finalize, yes, please.
All right, so just as you've all probably can tell by now, I'm extremely combative on all these topics, and so extremely so. I know. I like to view these things for exactly what they are, and not kind of like my brother and I call it hopium, right? Like I don't like to view things with hopium because nothing good ever comes out of hopium. So when I was growing up, I grew up in one of these kind of ravaged cities that looks a lot like Iran does, and so back before Facebook, now people go and they write on the wall, right, on Facebook, and they tell people what they're thinking. So before we had Facebook, people literally wrote on the wall. And the culture of where I'm from is to graffiti things on the wall. Like, this is the messages that they want to tell people, like political messages, social messages, just things like that. So right outside my window, what I would wake up and see every morning, it said, "Όλα είναι δικά μας, επειδή όλα είναι κλεμμένα." So this means is everything is ours because everything is stolen. So that means something different to a lot of people. But the definition that really stuck with me was that when people buy things with money that's not real, it's stolen. So like, I'll give a real world example. When Western countries lend money to non-Western countries and then print money and then demand that it be paid back, they've devalued the money, right? So like that's stolen. And like these are predatory loans that are being made all across Africa today, right? Like that's stolen. So when I look at blockchain, like this is a way to fix things because we fix ownership. And I see someone laughing. I don't give a fucking shit because you're laughing. But anyways, no, this is it's a very, very serious topic, So like I've dedicated my entire life to building things on chain because of how important that messaging is. So like that responsibility thing that we touched on, like if we want to stop things like that from happening, and we want ownership, and we want to stop having things stolen from us, like we got to take some responsibility ourselves. So I think that that's just very important, and that comes from education. So I'm going to leave it on that. Everything is ours because it was stolen from us, so we should just take it back.
I just wanted to add a few things I think we're missing. I would add censorship resistance for the strengths, and of course the main one, which is lack of central control. I also wanted to make a slight point on code is law. I know code is law is a concept that I think Nick Szabo championed, but it hasn't really come to fruition. In practice, it's consensus trumps code. I think the first time you saw this was Satoshi himself. I don't know if you remember, but somebody printed 8 billion Bitcoin in 2010, but Satoshi didn't like it, so he reversed the blockchain. That is not code is law. The first DAO hack, where I think the concept of code is law was really championed, because that was the first thing you saw on the website when they pitched the project, but then the DAO hacker was not able to go away with the funds. So code is law doesn't always pan out. And of course, Ethereum is censoring transactions now, by the way. Tornado Cash transactions are not accepted by any miners. So yeah, consensus does overrule code, and let's hope consensus stays in the hands of the good people. Oh, I would like to see code as law more than consensus, but let's see what happens.
Yeah, resilient code. Very important.
Yes.
after transnational that goes well. Yeah, okay, thank you so much. This was a really good participation for the little last minute workshop. I think people are waiting at the dinner place. So thank you so much for the valuable contribution. But I think it has proven itself as a concept, because I think it was really live and you enjoyed it, I guess. So we're going to do this sort of a little workshop to contribute, and then we can turn that into like a community collectively created report, end of the year report starting this year. And yeah, I mean, having one Greek person here, two Turkish people, I think we need to say crypto is initially anarchist. And anarchist means like to build to destroy, to rebuild to destroy. And this sort of things, like for me, like from countries like where we come from, it is really like slow destruction to build better, more resilient, until it collapses itself again, all over the same thing. And that's the nature of life. And so that's what we are trying to do here also. Each time we have an event, there comes a chaos, and then we build some other things. Thank you so much, Hacks, for your contribution. Vandals, yeah. I mean, it's a good thing that it's turning into a total institution. I mean, like with institutional investors and everything. It's not. I'm not saying it should stay like that, but it is essentially left libertarian. It is essentially anarchist. So there is this kind of like a discrepancy when crypto people looking at the crypto issues and the. So there's a, I think, threat here. One of the biggest threat I would put here is the false narration. Because we need a better narration. So thank you so much. I would like to thank Cecilia, Ichi, G for being my mentor and believing in me all the time, and Elliot. Thank you, my both co-founders of S21. Thank you.